The top two teams in the NHL this regular season were in must-win situations. Who survived? Who didn't? We've got Stanley Cup playoff action to talk about right now on Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. We are available 7 days a week, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. Heath Shukri writes, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. And together, we are here to discuss all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from the night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Shu, we had two teams that had great regular seasons on the ropes tonight.
Elimination night. It certainly was. Someone went home, and it wasn't Congress in D.C.
Oh, look at that. We will start in D.C., where the Capitals were taking on the Hurricanes. Game 5, Hurricanes looking to close it out, leading 3-1. Washington, obviously, in the must-win situation on home ice. This one was close throughout, but 1:59 left. Looked like we might be going overtime. But Andrei Svechnikov scores from a bad angle to give Carolina what would be the game-winning goal. A 2-1 lead. They add the empty netter, and the Hurricanes skate off with a 3-1 series-ending victory. Let's get a report from the very happy host of Locked On Hurricanes.
The Carolina Hurricanes are off to the Eastern Conference Final for the third time in the Rod Brind'Amour era, winning 3-1 in Game 5 in Washington. That is back-to-back series in this playoffs, winning it in 5 games. Jordan Staal gets the first one of the game. Capitals tie it up. Crazy shenanigans happened where the Capitals did get the lead. Unfortunately, lost it to an offsides. Andrei Svechnikov with 1:59 makes it 2-1. Jarvis with the empty netter to ice it 3-1. And now the Carolina Hurricanes wait for the winners of Florida and Toronto. But they are now on to the third round of the 2025 NHL playoffs. Canes fans, get ready, because the journey is not over.
And again, thanks to Zach Martin, the host of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes. And it is a journey to get this far, and yet they're only halfway to the goal when you think about it, obviously, if they're going to win the Stanley Cup. But I've been saying this a lot this postseason, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not necessarily surprised by the outcome, but I am surprised it only went 5 games. Credit the Hurricanes for getting 2 huge wins in DC, but they closed this one out a lot. I don't want to say easier, but a lot more decisively than I thought they would.
Oh, I agree. I thought that this would be a series that could potentially go 6, if not 7 games. And the reality is that what you saw from this Hurricanes team was pretty much like lunch pal type of mentality. Show up to work, do your job, like eat your lunch, and then go home. That's exactly what the Hurricanes did this entire series. And tonight was really no different. Whereas they knew they had a job to do. They knew what their assignment was. And I'm talking about like Jacob Slavin, who continues to really amaze me as a defenseman, and how he has not only showed on an international stage why he's the best defenseman in probably in the sport, like arguably, but also the reason why he is so valuable to the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, there are some people that'll say obviously Kel McCarr, yes, but Jacob Slavin is certainly right. He's right there. But as far as tonight's game is concerned, I can't say enough about Andrei Svechnikov, because Andrei Svechnikov, he didn't have the best of regular seasons. He didn't. But this postseason, he's just been what Svechnikov has been in the past, and he's been absolutely outstanding. And tonight, calling me shocked, but it didn't surprise me that he would be the one that would score the go-ahead goal at 1:59 remaining in regulation. And I just think that for Carolina and under Rod Brindamore, who continues to go on these deep playoff runs, it doesn't surprise me at all, but it impresses me considering that they have a system, they found a system that works, and they continue to be consistent upon playing within the structure, and that's why they have been successful so far through these first 2 playoff rounds.
And the Carolina Hurricanes are a team that gives a lot of teams out there who may not have that superstar hope, because they get it done with not that one outstanding player, but a group of really good players who know their role and play it well. And I have to give love to Frederik Andersen. He was great in Game 5. He stopped 18 to 19 shots, and he's been great so far this entire postseason. He's seen 95 shots. He's stopped 89 of them so far. And this is a guy who's not going to be at the top of anybody's list as far as the elite goaltenders in this league. But kind of like the Hurricanes team, he's solid, not flashy, gets the job done, and so far so good. I didn't think Carolina would have the goaltending edge in the series, but it turns out they did. How about Alexander Nikishin making his NHL debut in an elimination game? Jalen Chatfield was out with the injury. And so this young star Russian player coming over from the KHL, who they have high hopes for, can be a really, really good player for him going forward. Gets a chance and looked okay. I mean, nothing spectacular, but for him to be put in that situation, an elimination game in the playoffs, he didn't look out of place. I'll give him that. But the top team in the East is out. I mean, a special season for the Capitals. Of course, Alexander Ovechkin, a huge reason for that. But it comes to a disappointing end. Let's check in with our host of Locked On Capitals.
All good things must come to an end as the Capitals fall to the Hurricanes in Game 5 by a score of 3-1. Hi, this is Dan Homey of Locked On Capitals. Well, we saw a bit of a better performance by the Capitals in this final game of the season for them. And I started off slow. The first and second period, it was not the Capitals' game, but they poured it on heavy in the third period. You saw a goal by Anthony Beauvillier. You saw a goal that was offsides by Matt Roy. Connor McMichael was offsides, and your head kind of starts to go into places like, what would it have been? What would this game have been like had that goal stuck? But in any event, the Capitals did lose this game and at the end of their season. And you take a look at it. I'm proud of this team for what they've accomplished, winning the Metro, winning the Eastern Conference, when a lot of different people doubted this team to start the season. A lot of people looked at the Capitals and the moves that they made and didn't think that they would be a competitor, but they did just that. Hat goes off to the Carolina Hurricanes, as they were the better team, as apparent by the end result there. But the Capitals fought hard, at least in game number 5 here. I wish that maybe Spencer Carberry would have tried to tweak the lineup. He wouldn't have waited till game 5, where you saw Connor McMichael in at that third line center position. But all things considered, I'm proud of this Capitals team, and I'm already looking forward to next season.
All right, and thanks to Dan Holme, the host of Locked On Washington Capitals. It was a special year for the Caps. They had a great season. Alexander Ovechkin obviously was at the center of it, but unfortunately it ends on a sour note for the great 8, who set the all-time goal-scoring record, but only had 1 goal in this series, and that was his only point of the series as well. So it ends on a bad note for Alexander Ovechkin and the Capitals.
It certainly was a disappointing end to the season for the Capitals, in which that, listen, if you were one of those people who believed that this Capitals team could go on a deeper run, I don't fault you if you feel disappointed. I feel disappointed for the Capitals for the mere fact that in this series, they just simply showed the inability to adjust to the game that Carolina was playing. And this was a Carolina team that played a very tight defensive game, and they just defended well, and they did a pretty good job of neutralizing Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, with the exception of game 2, where he was the star of obviously game number 2, but then as well as Connor McMichael, Dylan Strome, Nick Dowd, they were all non-factors in this series for the Capitals, and you need to be able to have your primary scorers, your secondary scorers, to be able to score for you in the playoffs, but when you're not able to get shots off in the middle of the ice like the Capitals were able to do during the regular season, it's very difficult to get any sort of sustained success that way. So my hat's off to the Carolina Hurricanes, but for the Capitals, it is certainly a crashing into what was a very special season. Obviously, Ovechkin becoming the all-time goal leader in the history of the NHL, but then also this postseason for the Capitals, like they're going to have some questions that they're going to have to address for sure, but they definitely surprised a lot of people by finishing the first overall in the Eastern Conference.
And we talked about goaltending for Carolina. Logan Thompson had a great year. He had a Vezina caliber type of season, battled through some injuries, but unfortunately for him, he didn't really have it in this huge game. I thought a couple of the goals he let in, I thought the Svechnikov goal that he let in was a goal he's got to stop. And unfortunately did not get the job done. But Carolina is moving on, takes the series 4-1, third trip to the conference finals under head coach Rod Brind'Amour. Of course, as Hurricanes fans know, however, they've yet to win a single game. 0-8 in the previous conference finals trips under Brind'Amour. We'll see if that changes this time around as they await the winner of the Maple Leafs Panthers series, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But the top team in the East is out. What about the top team in the West? That's next on Locked On NHL Game Night. There's nothing like playoff hockey. The energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action with the Stanley Cup playoffs heating up. There's never been a better way to see it live. And Gametime makes getting in the building fast and affordable. Gametime gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. Seeing the exact seat before you check out gives me total confidence of the exact seat I'm going to get. Gametime includes fees up front and backs every order with their ticket coverage guarantee, covering cancellations, job loss, and even offering 24-hour returns. Oh, and speaking of planning ahead, NHL schedule release just dropped, and if you want to get in on the action, you can look ahead to the calendar and pick which games you want to hit. Gametime makes scoring NFL tickets just as easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We had another elimination game as the Winnipeg Jets, the top team in the West, hosting the Dallas Stars in a crucial Game 5 for Winnipeg. This one was on home ice for them, for Dallas holding the 3-1 lead in the series. And again, a must-win situation for Winnipeg. In the end, the Jets get a couple of big power play goals en route to a 4-0 shutout win. Winnipeg still alive in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's check in with a host of Locked On Winnipeg Jets.
Game 5, fighting for their very playoff lives, and they pulled off yet another 4-0 shutout. Harrison Lee from Locked On Winnipeg Jets here. Winnipeg played one of the biggest games of its NHL tenure. This one, the Jets were down 3-1 in the series, and in the last 4 attempts, the Jets have not been able to win a game following a series trailing margin that big. But here, goals from Scheifele, Nemesnikov, and Ehlers powered the Jets to a 4-0 shutout in pretty dominant fashion. Now, the Jets have really been good at home, but on the road, it's been a different story. Game 5, job done. Game 6, now one of the biggest tests in franchise history facing the Jets this coming weekend. We'll see you over the weekend with coverage of that game, but of course, we'll have all the playoff coverage heading into what should be a crazy end to the series throughout the remainder of whatever the Jets are able to pull off. See you then. Have a great night. And as always, go Jets, go.
And thanks to Harrison Lee, the host of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, for that. Jets got it done. They did what they had to do. I'm skeptical they can do it on the road, but that's for another day. For Game 5, they absolutely got the job done. This is a team that had the best power play in the regular season. It has not been great this postseason, but it was big when it had to be in this elimination game. They get 2 big power play goals, one of them with a 2-man advantage. So they get the job done, and they do keep their season alive.
Oh, huge win for the Winnipeg Jets at home. And I will give Connor Hellebuyck his flowers. I've been very critical of him throughout this entire postseason when we've done the shows together, Eddie. But tonight, 22 save shutout. And the thing that impressed me was the fact that he was able to limit the chances of the Dallas Stars and in more ways than one, just frustrate them. But I also would talk about like Nikolai Ehlers for just a moment, because if there was ever a game that you needed Ehlers to really like step up huge for this team, and it was tonight, especially in an elimination game, and he did exactly just that. And then like the power play I was working for the Winnipeg Jets in this game, and as well as the fact that they were also able to make huge like penalty kills, get the big stop that they needed to get at opportune times. And I just think that for the Winnipeg Jets, they're going to need to continue this formula on the road. The big question has been, can they duplicate their home success on the road? And the answer so far has been a resounding no. Now, the question now becomes, with the series shifting back to Dallas for game number 6 on Saturday night, I wonder if you are the Winnipeg Jets, like, will you be able to bottle up the same formula that you applied in tonight's game? Strong goaltending from Connor Hellebuck, check. Mark Scheifele stepping up huge in this game, check. Nikolai Ehlers coming up huge, and Amisnikov also coming up huge as well, but also be able to get like contributing like factor from Kyle Connor. Can you get all those things on the road and force a game 7? That remains to be seen.
No doubt. And look, Connor Hellebuck has obviously been heavily criticized a lot this postseason, and it's been deserved a lot. So I don't want to act like I'm not going to give him love when he gets a shutout. That having been said, I didn't think the Stars made him work very hard, and certainly credit the Jets team defense for that. But he only saw 4 shots in the first period. He saw 5 in the second period. Now, there were 13 in the third, but the game was pretty much out of hand at that point. Now, give him his credit. Again, back-to-back home shutouts. He's gotten the job done. But I thought Dallas made life a little bit easy on him. Let's see what the host of Locked On Dallas Stars has to say about that.
The President's Trophy winners looked like the President's Trophy winners tonight, as the Winnipeg Jets shut out the Dallas Stars by a final score of 4-0 to extend the series and send it back to Game 6 in Dallas on Saturday. The Stars were sloppy from the get-go, and this one could never find a rhythm. They weren't sharp, never really tested Hellebuck or the Jets in this one tonight, unfortunately. But Winnipeg's a fantastic team. They've been very good on home ice this season. They're the stingiest team in the league all year, and they showed up tonight and proved it. And now Dallas is going to have to respond like they did in Game 3 after they laid a bit of an egg in Game 2 already in this series. But too many penalties in this game. The penalties finally came back to haunt Dallas, as Winnipeg added a couple power play goals tonight as well. So we'll see if the Dallas Stars can close it out in Game 6.
And to me, Shu, it looked like they were playing like, it's like, okay, we're going to go back home. We'll take care of business in Game 6. I mean, again, I don't want to act like I'm not giving the Jets their due. They played a great game. They did exactly what they had to do. But I just felt like watching that game that Dallas was like, yeah, we'll try to play. We'll try to win. But in the end, we'll get it done in Game 6 at home. We're not really worried about it. You just can't do that in the Stanley Cup playoffs. When you have a chance to eliminate someone, you have to take advantage of that as much as possible. And I just didn't feel like there was that urgency. I get it for the Jets. They're playing for their lives. But I just felt like the Stars were kind of like, yeah, we'll play. But if it doesn't happen, no big deal. We'll just go home and take care of business. And maybe they will. But I didn't really like the way they came into this game. I just didn't think they had that killer instinct tonight.
I thought they got pushed around a lot in this game. Like I didn't like the fact that Dallas just looked disengaged. I mean, maybe that is a little strong, but the way that they look on the ice in terms of the energy, lackluster. Them being pushed around by Winnipeg. Yeah. And also, not to mention, and I agree with your point about they didn't make Connor Hellebuck work hard at all. Like it was as if like Connor Hellebuck was just there just to be there. And if there's a shot, okay, I just made the save. Going back to reading a book while I stand in between the pipes for the next shot to come on net. Like, I just feel like Dallas, like they kind of had a lackadaisical approach in their game. Again, I know it's some truly strong words, but I was actually kind of annoyed watching the Stars in terms of like how they seemingly were just constantly on their heels. especially whenever Winnipeg would have a rush into the offensive zone. I felt like as if that like even with everyone back healthy for Dallas, it just seemed like they just didn't have that extra jump, and that doesn't sit well with me. But now let's see what happens. A big test for Winnipeg is going to be, can they win on the road, and everybody knows it. But for Dallas, I think now is, hey, now the series is 3-2. You're home Saturday night. Can you close that at home? And that we're going to find out.
Yeah, and the reason why they might be very confident and not really care that much about this loss in Game 5 is the Jets' record on the road in the postseason, 0-9 in their last 9 road games. So they're going to have to do something very, very unexpected to extend this to a Game 7 back in Winnipeg. But there is a Game 6, thanks to the Jets' win Saturday in Dallas. Will the Leafs rebound from a embarrassing Game 5 to keep their season alive? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On NHL Game Night. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout play, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay into the game before tip-off and during the action with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are going to show up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you build your next big bet? What it'll look like to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds. If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same-game parlay? How could a $200 bonus in bets help you in your excitement if your first $5 bet hits? If you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We have one game coming up in the Stanley Cup playoffs on Friday, and that will be in Florida, where the defending champion Panthers are looking to close out the Toronto Maple Leafs in game number 6. The two teams traded wins on home ice, and then the eventful Game 5 in Toronto, a 6-1 embarrassing loss where the fans were booing the team off the ice. Someone threw their jersey out on the ice. Shu, you picked the Leafs to win it all. And look, I can't talk much trash because I picked Tampa Bay and they were out in round number 1. But how you feeling about that prediction at this point?
Not good. And this is probably the harshest I'll probably sound tonight, or any show that we've done together so far. I thought that the Toronto Maple Leafs performance in game number 5 was absolutely gutless. I think it was absolutely atrocious. And frankly, I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs did themselves an absolute disservice by allowing the Florida Panthers to be able to find their game again. Because the thing that I'm going to look back on, if the Maple Leafs lose this series, if they lose tomorrow in game number 6, is when they were up 3-1 in game number 3. That is what I'm going to look back on at that very moment, is where things fell apart. And the Maple Leafs have not shown the mental fortitude that I thought that they had in being able to bounce back from such a tough loss, especially the way that they lost in overtime. And I just think that on the Florida side of things, I think that the Panthers, they're in a groove now. They have rediscovered their game, their physicality, the way that they defend in their own end, and as well as obviously Bobrovsky has been like sturdy in that and throughout this series since game number 3. But I also will say that for Toronto, you gotta find a way to solve Florida's forechecking, because they have had no answer for the Panthers forechecking, especially in these last 3 games. And then also on top of that, they need to figure out exactly how to wake up out of their offensive conundrum, because Eddie, in the last 2 games combined, the Toronto Maple Leafs have scored a grand total of exactly 1 goal.
The Maple Leafs have won a couple of road games this postseason, but that was in Ottawa. And guess what? The Florida Panthers are not the Ottawa Senators. The Panthers are more experienced. They know how to come up big in big moments. They are more physical. They have the better goaltending. I am not surprised they find themselves in this position, and they know how to close out an opponent. And I have little doubt they're going to do that. But for the Leafs, we're talking about the last ride of the core four, right? Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares. Marner and Tavares are UFAs at the end of the season, and they're likely not coming back. So this is it. This is the final stand for those guys. Are they going to finally come up with a big, big win and give them a chance in a game 7 at home? Not a lot of people like you are optimistic. I'm not as well. I believe it's 2-13 in the elimination games with that group. So a lot was expected. There were a lot of hopes that this collection of very talented players could come together and get the Leafs to a place they haven't been in a very, very long time. But I mean, you don't need to look any farther than the captain of the team. Austin Matthews has no goals. He has the same number of goals as you and me in this series. Nothing. He's got to lead the way. Even if he isn't scoring a goal, he's got to make some game-changing types of plays because he's been absent. And this is it. This is it for the core four.
And not only that he hasn't been absent, but also I just feel as if that him playing banged up doesn't excuse the fact that he has not been producing at all offensively. And to take it even a step further, I just wonder if you're the Maple Leafs, and yes, they've made it a point where they're not going to get pushed around and so forth, but Florida doesn't even have to do the pushing around. They don't even have to be the bully. And I just think that the Maple Leafs so far, they haven't had an answer. But to your point about the core four, this is exactly why I am so I would say I'm harsh on the Maple Leafs after game number 5 is because each and every time since the 2016-17 season, when someone from this core four has needed to step up in a huge spot in the postseason, they have oftentimes come up small. And game number 6, this is their moment of truth. And I agree, between Marner being a free agent, Tavares being a free agent, either one of those two players may be back with the Maple Leafs wearing blue and white next season. So what is their legacy going to be in Toronto? We'll find out.
Anthony Stolar's not expected to travel to Florida at the last report. He's been out since game 1 when he got hit by Sam Bennett. He was back on the ice on Wednesday doing some workouts, but again, last report was he was not making the trip. If there's a game 7, maybe he could get back in the lineup, but obviously it's all about game 6 at this point, or that doesn't even matter. So Joseph Woll is going to be in the spotlight again. Got pulled in game 5 when he allowed 5 goals on 20 shots. He's lost his last 3 games, as have the Maple Leafs. He didn't have a bad game 4. He allowed 2 goals, 2-0. His team didn't score any goals for him, but 5 goals in game 3, 5 goals in game 5. Obviously, he's going to have to step up as well for the Leafs to try and force a game 7, but not a lot of optimism in Toronto. Not surprising, but it's been earned, right? They've earned the skepticism from the hockey world. We'll see if they can shock us all and force a game 7, but I would be very, very surprised if that happens, not just because of their history, but because of the Florida Panthers as well. Defending Stanley Cup champs, they're ready to close this out and end this. We'll see, but it'll be very interesting to talk about it with you on our next show. So we've got 2 teams into the conference finals. 2 of the final 4 are set. The Edmonton Oilers are there. And now, thanks to their win, the Carolina Hurricanes have joined them. You got a taste of some of our local experts. Make sure you check out the Locked On show of your favorite NHL team. Get all the latest news and reactions. I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Shukri Wrights. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.